So, you may be wondering, why is this video 11 minutes, and why does it seem like the thumbnail is an actual review of something? Well, because it was. Before I truly started making actual decent content on this channel, I made a little test run about cloud gaming services, where I talked about, like, all the ones that I've tried. NVIDIA, PlayStation, and Stadia. I bought the Stadia just for that video, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't try the Xbox One because it wasn't available on any of the devices that I had at the time. So, that, yeah. The video in itself is unfinished because the day that I released it, I had to go on vacation. So, yeah, that put a whole, like, dent in my plans. A lot of the jokes feel half-baked, and, like, a specific joke at the very end is just not ready. It was not ready to be released. I really should have delayed the video, but the thing is, I already had it. It was in production for a good 2 months at the time, because it went through multiple phases, right? I had a video about Sonic at the Olympic Games being made, which I later made into reality. Then I had a video about Bobby the Hedgehog, which never got off the ground, and that's still probably gonna happen at some point, maybe next April Fool's or something. But yeah, I had that, and then this was the one that got off the ground, and I removed it shortly after because it, like, there was no script. That's kind of the main thing. There was no script, so the video, like, you can tell it has no direction really. It was clearly not finished, and I should have spent more time on it. And I don't feel like this would fit on the main channel, so I am going to put it on here, so that way if you want to watch it, you can. But yeah, you do you, buddy. By the way, this video is very compressed because I lost the files to this and all of my other videos that I had planned a long time ago. So if it's compressed, it's because YouTube likes compressing things. Yeah, that's all I really want to say. Enjoy the video.
With the right internet connection, games look phenomenal. The games we tested look about as good as they do on an Xbox One X or PS4 Pro.
Cloud gaming services. Like them or hate them, they're starting to become far more popular in the year 2020. With NVIDIA GeForce Now officially releasing to the public, PlayStation Now getting its price drop, Google's exclusive game service releasing, and Project xCloud being available on anything but iOS. Thanks, Apple Arcade. Now, out of these four, I've only tried 3 of the services: GeForce Now, PlayStation Now, and Google freaking Stadia. I haven't tried Project xCloud because, well, Android exclusive. So with that being said, let's get rid of all our consoles, bring out the streaming devices, and begin with our 15 minutes of latency. Well, before we get into this, we must know, what is a cloud gaming service? Cloud gaming is where you can take any device, let's say not an iPhone, and play any game that you could ever dream of on it through streaming. Yeah, like the Netflix streaming. You know Netflix, right? They take the movie from their servers and bring it over to you. It's great. Cloud gaming is pretty much like that, but with video games, and it's far more complicated. Instead of them taking chunks of the video and putting it onto your phone, they have to take every frame from the game and take it over to your phone frame by frame. This can either work well or really horribly. This is because of latency. Latency is the amount of time that it takes for you to press a button on your controller and for it to show up on the TV. And because of streaming, the latency may be higher or lower depending on your connection. Cloud gaming has already been done before with a service called OnLive. It was, of course, a cloud gaming service where it took the game and streamed it over to your device. But this was the early 2010s, so you knew it wasn't gonna work well. It was discontinued a few years after it released. However, we're not in 2010, we're in the year 2020. And internet speeds have definitely increased in those 10 years, so naturally, cloud gaming would obviously make its way in, right? Yeah, sure.
Bucky, the mice will agree to anything. You guys are all idiots, right?
Right!
GeForce Now is probably the most unique of the services we're going to be looking at today. Instead of you paying for a subscription, losing your integrity, or giving Microsoft your postal code, you're using the games that you already own on things like Steam, Uplay, or Epic Games if you're really into that. For only $5 a month if you really want to get all your stuff instantly, or for completely free if you want to wait for like 12 hours to get in a game. This is a really great deal. I would have stopped right there if it wasn't for the licensing problem. Now for all of you babies who don't know what a licensing is, allow me to explain it to you. Let's say that a company doesn't like how you have to pay $5 a month to get the proper streaming experience. So they take their game from Nvidia and lock it only to Steam. Let's try another example. Let's say that another company has an exclusivity deal with another streaming service. They'll take their game from GeForce Now, lock it only to Steam, though it can only be streamed to the competitor's streaming service. The future of gaming, everybody. This issue is really the only reason why GeForce Now isn't my main streaming service, because as a human being, I own a Mac and a laptop. I don't know about you, but those things aren't powerful enough to run Half-Life Alyx. Well, forget about the licensing. How do the games run? Well, right now you're seeing footage of Sonic Mania, which has been taken off of the GeForce Now service. I think I broke my hand. Well, right now you're seeing footage of Sonic Mania running at 1080p 60, even though it's probably going to be compressed. And the latency is surprisingly almost non-existent, unless if you're a genius who can spot every single millisecond of latency. Which then probably runs pretty poorly for you. But even with all that, the fact that you can play all your Steam games on pretty much any device that you own, unless if you're an iPhone user, that's great. Oh no, oh no, no.
PC Master Race, rise up!
PlayStation Now is pretty much the opposite of what GeForce Now strives to be. Instead of using the games that you already own, you're paying for a subscription which used to be $19 a month. $19, man. I could buy the Sonic movie with that much money. And back when this first came out, you had to pay for the subscription and rent certain games. Huh. So it's basically Amazon Prime Video. Do your research next time. Nowadays, it's more bearable. Instead of it being $19 a month, it's $9 a month. And you don't have to rent certain games. They're all a part of your subscription, which is great. This means for $9 a month, I can play great games like Ben 10, Bolt, Toy Story Mania, Ninja Gaiden 3, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1, and Bubsy the Woolly Strike Back. Now, unlike GeForce Now, you don't have to worry about games being taken away, since this is all made by Sony, and all the games are already on PlayStation platforms. Unless if you're Spider-Man, Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Lego Worlds, or any other game that Sony dubs as limited time games. However, unlike the other services we're going to be looking at, this is the only one that's not on mobile devices. It's only on PlayStation 4 and PC. Now, as your local non-PlayStation 4 owning person, this is great! But the latency here is far more noticeable than on GeForce Now. However, you can't really tell that much unless if you're really paying attention and you know the game very well. The game library though, holy crap. Over 800 games according to the website, and yeah, that's kind of obvious. Oh, and you can download the PS4 games if you're on PlayStation 4, which probably makes this the best streaming service out of all three if you're one of those people. PlayStation Now is definitely more appealing than GeForce Now if you're not really that into PC games and you're willing to pay a Netflix type subscription for a bunch of games. I mean, let's say all of these games are AAA games, over 800 of them. Yeah, you'd probably want to pay a subscription for them now, would you? Hey, before we get to this part, let me just bring something up. So I originally had gameplay of Destiny 2 recorded, but apparently HitFilm doesn't support MOV files, which is dumb. So here's footage of a Hen 10 on Switch for you. Enjoy. Alright, Google Stadia, here we go. Do I have something to say about this? Why can't I share my captures on YouTube or Twitter? Why can't I still open people's spots in games and try to beat their scores? Why isn't the service available on iOS? Oh wait, why does UI look the opposite of good? And why did you introduce the service with the guy who has only played FIFA? Google Stadia is probably the most new of the three services, I guess. GeForce Now was in beta for a long time, so I guess this sort of counts. When this thing launched 7 months ago, it was memed to death. It wouldn't work well. You had to pay $130 to get into an expensive beta. And the only two games you could play at launch were Destiny 2 and Samurai Showdown. The rest came out like a day later. But then in April of 2020, Google thought, we actually want to sell this, and made it free for everyone. Around the time that Stadia became free, it did actually get a lot of games, But even still, 7 months after launch, there are less than 60 games currently purchasable. Google, what are you doing? When the service did become free, a lot of the issues that people had whenever it launched were gone. It ran a lot better. Some things that were advertised whenever it was first announced actually came out. And best of all, I could play Power Rangers on Google Chrome at 60 frames per second. It was great. And with all of this finally happening, I had an idea that would not only help me become financially bankrupt before the age of 18, but would also help me get canceled on social media forever. What have I done? Yeah, so Google had a discount for the Stadia Premier Edition where they got rid of the Stadia Pro deal, and now it's $100 instead of $130. You know I had to get it. This controller actually does not look that bad. It feels really nice too. It does feel really nice. I do like it. Now the Chromecast, holy crap, this is small. This is way smaller than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting it to be like not the size of this box, but like maybe something a bit smaller than the box. But this is small. Holy crap. I am speechless. Google, you did a good. You did a good. You did a good. You did it, Google. You did a good. I still can't believe that I'm gonna be canceled. Is this barcode? I don't think this barcode is okay to show. Shoot. I probably have to zoom in a bit. It's gonna look horrible on the actual thing. I can't believe it. I'm gonna get canceled. I'm gonna get canceled. Hashtag #XPoolsOverParty is gonna start trending on Twitter the second this video goes up. I promise you. Well, now that I'm canceled, the only question that remains is, how well does it work? Well, when it works really well. I'm able to play Power Rangers at 60 frames per second. It's amazing. And when it doesn't work, I'm getting really bad frame rates. And look at this. Look at this. And Stadia's latency is probably the best I've seen out of the three. But that can't forgive Stadia for having this. This is unforgivable. I didn't move my controller during this. I promise you.
Right.
Now that we've made it this far, it's time for me to talk about what my favorite one of the three is and why. It's PlayStation Now. Quite obviously, it's PlayStation Now. I'm personally a fan of the subscription for a bunch of things thing. Not for Adobe though. They just give you certain apps for $70 a month. That's not a service, Adobe. Now yes, Stadia does run better depending on what they feel like that day, and yes, Nvidia GeForce Now lets you play the games that you already own. But first off, if you checked my Steam page, you would know that I have 5 games on Steam, and only one of those is supported. And it's a free-to-play game. In Stadia, I mean. Not paying $10 a month for 20 games. If it was like 800, sure. Not 20. Not 20. Now that I've gotten all that out of the way, what are my thoughts on cloud gaming in general? I think it's great. Pretty good. The fact that you can play games like, I don't know, Gravity Rush on your low-end laptop, that's fantastic. I've always wanted to play Gravity Rush at 60 frames. And streaming itself has so many possibilities. Like, what if you could join in your friend's game while they're playing that game? What if you could close your game and then open it back up like 5 minutes later? Or maybe even, what if you could take a streamer's specific spot and try to beat their high score in that spot? Those were all at Google Stadia's GDC conference, and 2 of them still haven't been added. Take a guess which ones. But the most important question out of everything in this video, does the Google Stadia controller work with Sonic Robo Blast 2? Hey, so I originally had footage of Sonic Robo Blast 2 working with the Google Stadia controller, but I forgot to film it, and I'm currently packing for a thing, so just pretend footage of it working, okay? Thanks. It does. Frick you, Microsoft.